So we are in the middle of page Kuf Mem Vov. So we finished discussing two. There's a marshal page before Yod Barich is the marshal ilan, the marshal from a tree that you plant the garind, the kernel in the ground, and the kernel contains within it, in a stage of potential, all the details of the ilan, which mean the trunk of the ilan, the branches, the fruit. And he said that's in Kabbalah, this is a marshal on Atzilus, and he had two ways to decide to apply the marshal to the nimshal. The first pshat in page Kuf Mem Hey was that the Elon, the Gufa Elon, the trunk, that's the marshal of the Eir and Sof Shalifnei Atzilus. The Anafim, the branches, that was the spheres of Atzilus. And the pears, the fruit, that's the Elam is Biyah. That was pshat number one. Then here on page Kuf Mem Vav, earlier it said Gam Yeshlema, second pshat, that the Gufa Elon, that's Atzilus. The branches, that's the Aras Atzilus and Biyah, which is called the Shvatim. And the pears, that's the Neshamas. That was the second way. But in the second way, in the second pshat, he brought from the actual sources from Kabbalah that use this terminology, these terms, this language, beneged to these madrigas. So beneged to Atzilus is called Elon. We find in Pasach Eliyahu, Keshaki the Elona. The Atzilus is called Elon. When you get to the Anafim, he said the Shvatim are called Anafim because a shevet is a stick, which is a branch. You get to the pears that are the Neshamas. For that, he brought a Maimah in Zoya, but that's what we finished yesterday. In the middle of page Kuf Mem Vav. Even so I checked in I just put on the WhatsApp the Biur Hazeh of the Mittel Rebbe, which is the Alter Rebbe, and Zoya, page 22. Over there, he quotes the Zoya. The pasuk says in Chumash Bereishis, in Parashat Bereishis, "V'no yoytze me'eden la'ashkes hasagon misham yiporet." Says the Zoya, "Ha'uno the noged v'nofik ba'ay laginsa." This river that leaves and goes to the garden. V'ashkele mashkin deleile. He waters the garden with the mashkin de leila, va'ovid le'naicha, and it gives pleasure and delight. Va'ovad ibin v'rovazari. That's the last. Ibin v'zari. So what is so ibin means pears, and zarin means rovazarin means grain. The Alter Rebbe in that Maimer, there's a longer arichas. What is Ivin and Zarin? So first he brings the whole thing that Ivin means the Malachim and Zarin means the Neshams. Later on, there's all arichas in that Maimer. Later on, he brings that sometimes it says the opposite. Ramas brings the page 24 in our 86. That sometimes you say the even is the neshamas and zarin are the malachim. That's the whole arichas in that maimer. That the amshacha from the Nar Yetzim Eden, the amshacha of Atzilus in Gan Eden in Elam Abriya, which is Gan Eden, creates zarin v'ibin, which is neshamas and malachim. So that's what he brings here in our maimer. That we see the neshamas are called either ibn or zarin. So both of them represent the fruit. See, Okay, I just wanted to say what it says. So we finished the explaining that marshal of the Elon, how it applies to Olam Atzilus. Now, in Shoam Eschaz Makamach, and continues the second in page Kufim Hey, but the second marshal. The first marshal was from the Elon. The second marshal was from the Vlad, from the fetus, the way it's created from the genetic material. So he says the Agdolas of Chema marshal based Agdolas of Vlad, similar in the marshal based Agdolas of Vlad. So we find that the Vlad, when the fetus is developed in the mother's womb, we find there's some limbs are external, which means they're like tough, they're not important, they're like side. They're the external unimportant one, the pnimi. So that's why it's in the mush. Similarly, we find also in Adam alien, which means in Atzilus. Kamaima. So we also have the Varim Pnimi Chitzoni. Kamaima, like it says in Lashon in Pasach Eliyahu, Anto da Afikas Asatikun, V'Karin Eloi Asasfiras. So like Pasach is what the Pasach Eliyahu explains and develops the explanation how each of the spheres represent a different madrigas, Mayach and Lev, etc. So what do we see here? So there's madrigas, just like in the body of the person, it's same thing, it's in the spheres. So we see here also. So in this marshal applies more general. He only takes out on this marshal the pneumis or chitzanis. What's negay and our mind this entire point? That the Amaima wants he brings out how the parzufim of Olam HaTikun are developed from the nekudas of Olam HaToyer. It's not like he said. It's not the pshat. There's a new creation. But the Olam HaTikun is a development of Olam HaToyer. The Nekuda of Olam HaToyer is developed into the parts of the Olam HaTikun. So that's what he says. Chola Gdola Zois, this development, Humamidas de Toyu, it starts from the Madrig of Midas de Toyu, which is in a way of Nekudas. The Shabo Me'asav HaMasach Zohar. The Midas de Toyu are derived from the Entzaf HaMatzah in a way of Zohar, similar to the of Zohar in the sense that it's a small kernel that's planted. Kamaya Gari, just like a kernel, Shopchinat's Klolos. Memena Nasa Kol Agdala Elon, just like the Gari is in general, and that in turn develops into a full tree. Kacha Nekudas the time when it's closed. Please, how can it's cloud? So the way the spheres are in a state of Nekuda and Klolos, they're very general, but that bleeds halkos, but without any division and development. The Shabo is it's compared to Zohar, which means it's just a kernel. So actually after this long marshal of the Elon, what we derive from Elon and the Vlad, what we come out with is that in Toyu and Tikkun, it's also the same way. It's in the way of Nekuda and Toyu and in parts of Tikkun. But then there's another more important part of the marshal that applies to the Nimsh. They share parts of the Tikkun because the Toyu, in order for the parzufim of Tikkun should be created and developed from the nekudas of Toyu, in al derech marshal b'agdolas ilu min hagan, it was a base noim. So that's also compared to the way the tree grows from the kernel. So we see here was a base noim shem base siva shetiyat tzmicha. There are two core conditions, two two important conditions and the environment in order that for the earth, for the middle spheres, the toy should turn into partsufim, into full, like you explained Barichas in the Emshah before, the fully developed division and chalkus and iskalus, etc. So for that to happen, we need two conditions, which are compared also to the Garin of the Ilan. In order for the tree to be grow from the kernel, they need two conditions. Two reasons. At Nair Aleph, the first condition, that the kernel should lose its shape. It rots and loses its shape totally, the state of beetle. So the reason why we need this tnai, the tnai of recovering agarin, there are two reasons really. Aleph, two reasons why, in order for the garin to turn into an ilon, we needed to rot and lose its identity. Number one, Number one, the bittul agarin is the idea of a lost man, which we call, it's also the lasat. I'm not sure if this concept applies in the physical sense, but I guess it does. Like in Igeras HaKodesh, Tanya, Kodesh Siman Chof, he explains how Bichlal, the way Chassidus views the way Koyach HaTzameach operates. The way Chassidus looks at it is that the Koyach HaTzameach Sheba'aretz, the earth has inherent Koyach to grow. In order for it to happen, the Garin has to awaken it. It's not like the Garin. In other words, our intuitive thing is that the Garin itself, just put the Garin and it grows. But Chassidus has a different view of the way it operates. The actual growth comes from Koyach HaTzameach. The earth, the land has an inherent power to grow. The only need, why do we need a Garin? It's a Koyach HaTzameach. It's a trigger. It's a way to be ma'er the Koyach HaTzameach. It's a lost man. That's so. Vermeil says that you need the beetle. In other words, the real way of to be ma'er the Koyach HaTzameach is the lost man. It's also the sata. The beetle is an expression. It's also the sata. It's ma'er the Koyach HaTzameach. It's bottled the Koyach HaTzameach. But that's not that important in our. I mean, you'll see that it is important to a degree. But more important, there was an base. More important reason why we need that the Garin, the kernel, should rot. The reason why we need a Garin to rot, so in order for all the parts, remember we said originally that the Garin contains all the parts that are eventually going to turn into a tree. So in order for that to happen, all these parts have to be bottled. They should lose their individuality. In the male, they'll be able to blend with each other, and then they'll be able to turn into a tree who has all these separate individual points. That's what he's explaining now. The inner all these details were later developed in the tree. All of them exist. He calls generally divided into the important parts and the secondary parts. So earlier he spoke about what is the secondary parts are the branches and the bark. That's secondary. The important parts, the way it's explained earlier in the marshal, are the trunk of the tree, and the most important part are the pears, the fruit. So all these parts of the Elon, he says, Yeshno kulam ba'agari. but the way they exist there, they're in equal footing. There's no difference. The way it's in a state of potential, they're all in an equal state. She's bahakach. No, it should later be refined and clarified. I think the word, maybe the word missing it. משהו חיצוני זה חיצוניוס, and all the חיצוני should be separated. So there's a big mahalakim el bagam yisavus. In order for later two, each one should get its own shape. Each one should find its own place. We have to mevatel its original state where all are equal. That's an important observation because we're going to get to it at the nimshal. In the marshal, what he says is, the reason. This is the second reason why we need the recovery nagar, the radi. In order that the fact that they're equal should be lost to a degree. So that way, eventually, each one will find his own place. It brings a mush to that goof. When you want to make a kli vessel, let's say a cup, a becher from a piece of silver, first we have to melt the silver. All the parts of that piece of silver are mixed because they become fluid, so everything is mixed. The bottom becomes top bottom. Only then could we shape the becher out of silver in the way we want it. The becher should look exactly the way we want it. If they're not going to melt the piece of silver, for example, a piece of wood which cannot be melted. So you can also make a cup out of a piece of wood, but it's different. Mandy, I think last time you gave me a clue what he's saying here. Remember?
I don't really remember.
No. In other words, in practical terms, we're mixing here very physical gashim is like a muscle, but it's really more of it's a conceptual idea here that when you take a piece of wood and you give it shape, so you don't have full control. But I think the muscle he gave me was that if you did it one way wrong, so then you can make it and then melt again. That's really in our
that again. Yeah, I get that one. Make a mistake, you go through garbage. Yeah.
Make a mistake, and always fix. You can always melt the silver, move things around. Comes to a piece of wood, you do it one way, and it must stay this way. You can't move things around. That's what we know from our experience. But here he says something different, which I'm not 100% sure what.
Maybe he's saying if you want to make an intricate design, you can't do that unless you melt it.
Yeah, you're right. In other words, when you do a design on a piece of wood, you're much more limited because you're working with something that can be melted, so you're stuck to a certain way. You don't have full control. Mashenken silver, because it's you can melt it. The melting makes the entire silver like fluid equal, so you can play around with it. So he says it. If it's not melted, which let's say, we have to really think more about the message, the concept he's saying. That if there's no beetle, if the material is not, it's not bottled, it's not melted, where everything is equal, tacht and alien, so you don't have really have full control. You must melt it and mix all parts of the silver. Okay, he bought in a mashal b'tech mashal. Here in the middle of the mashal garin, but in order to explain the mashal garin, he brings another mashal from a melted metal. So in order for you to have, we have to have full control of the metal and be able to move things around. The metal has to be melted, which is really a mashal of that it loses its identity. It becomes fluid. It's similar to the concept of the garin being nirkav, the garin rotting. As he says, garin sheyesh by pnimius v'achitzonius shava k'moya pnimius. Going back to the mashal garin, that the garin itself contains both the chitzonius and the pnimius. The garin contains what's eventually going to become the chitzonius of the elon, which, like we said earlier, it's like the anafim, the branches, and the bark, which what did he call it earlier? Called it klipa elon.
The bark, yeah.
Yeah, the bark. You call it a klipa elon. So that's the chitzonius. And the pnimius, the way he understood before in the marshal, is, like I said, the trunk, the essence, the stalk of the tree, and the fruit. So all these are in pnimius chitzonius, but shaved, they're equal. If there's not going to be no beetle, which means they're rotting, they're losing its identity. Then they're not going to mix. So the pnimis is not going to be proper, but they're not going to be shaped properly. So to summarize what he said, he started saying that in order for the garin to turn into elon, there's one. Still talking about the first night. The first night is the recovery, the beetle, the losing its own identity. And for that, when you lose it, then eventually it can turn into a fully developed elon. But the pnimius and the chitzonius are different madrigas. Each one has its own role. Each one plays its own proper role. The boiler metal. In order to explain that marshal, you bought the marshal from the metal and the melting of the metal. At Naya base, that's all explained the first Naya, like you said. Naya Rishon, who are recovered. Naya base, the second condition that's needed in order for the kernel to turn into a tree. At Naya base, Azuya Tia, the Naya basis was missing it. Okay. The Zriya should be must be in a moist fluid, in a moist land, can be in the midbar, can be in the desert, everything is dry. The earth has to have some lachluchis, has to have some, it has to be wet. First of all, the lachluchis that actually makes the garin right. But that's not the important part. More importantly, we need the water, we need the lachluchis, we need the fluids in order for the tree to grow. Even when the tree is grown already, it still needs water. If there's not enough water, it will go very, it will not grow well. To make shomim, constantly needs the what's the word, the moistness of the earth, and even more, it needs range. Only that makes the tzmicha go. It says in the after we know from the Me'atainis. So we see that's the marshal ilan. Also in the second marshal that he brought, Agdolas Havlad, while the day shachila. How does the vlad grow? How does the fetus grow? Is the food. From the food that the mother eats while she's pregnant. Like the famous Gemara says, that the child, he gets his sustenance from the food that his mother eats. The blood that the mother's blood, which is developed from the food she eats, that gives the chayes to the fetus. He turns it into a question. Why do we need a second condition? The garin has this potential to grow even. The tipa has the potential to grow blood. So what does it need? An extra additional watering food? What do you need it for? Why do we need an extra addition of energy coming from the food of the mother and from the water of the rain? Because the way it exists within the garin and within the tipa, is in a very diminished state of the fact that the garin and the tipa contain in a potential state the whole ilan, that is not enough for it to turn into a fully developed ilan or vlad. The truth is that the yachas of the ilan, despite everything we said, that the ilan contains, that the garin contains the ilan, but really the shalei be'erech ad shukamay yesh ma'ayin, which comes from Nigas HaKodesh Simon Chof, u'udav nifla sheyesh ba'aretz hatzmiach. That's the last Nigas HaKodesh. And the fact that the land has this power, like I said before, the koichat semeach, u'udav nifla, it's almost like a miracle, because it's isavas yesh ma'ayin. It took take a little piece of a little kernel, and that turns into a fully developed tree. That's yesh ma'ayin. So that alone has it in a state of potential, but in order for it to turn into a tree, this needs a special push, a special power. That the same thing. So negate to the eretz. He says the lashon davar nifla sheyesh ba'aretz latzmiach. That a special, it's a wondrous type of quality that the land has, latzmiach, to grow this similarly Isavas Havlad, the fact that the genetic material in time of conception turns into a fully developed child, that's also a miracle. The Binei Seir Nitna Be'isha. He brings a very beremes. It says in other places that the Isha has a special power. Binei Seir, just like the Oretz, has a special power to grow. So the Isha is the Binei Seir, this special power that it can turn the tipa into a vlad. So because we see that in order for that to happen, it's a leap. It's a huge leap. So it's really not natural possession. It's not something that happens automatically. That's why we need an additional partner. והוא המים שפועל עצמך בהגדרה מן הגר. So that is the מים, the water, the way it works in the marshal, Ilan, מים שפועל עצמך בהגדרה מן הגר. And Benegeya to, it doesn't bring the second marshal, so you already said earlier, Benegeya to the Vlad, the same thing. You need the Achilas Ha'ev. So jumping back to the Nimsh, what does it mean? So what we say? We said that Tut Noim, in order for the Garin to turn into an Ilan, that Tut Noim. First night is the beetle, the recovery, and the second night is the mind, the special influx of an outside power that gives it the ability to actually grow. So he says, what is the name? The kudus of Toyu should develop into the Patsufim of Atzilus from the state of Nekuda, which is potential, to turn into fully developed parts of fully developed shape. So is Elin Shalamayla Mitoyu. In order for that to happen, there needs to be a relation, an influx of for alien, a higher power, a higher light, which is even higher than Toyo Shari. Oh yeah, so he brings in this to prove the point. Prove is not maybe the wrong word, to illustrate the point that in order for the tikkun to be created from Toyu, there's really a power which is above both of them. So it brings the what it says in Kabbalah, in other words, this entire drama of the Toyu and Tikkun, there's Toyu. Toyu is destroyed. Then there's Tikkun, the repair. In Tikkun, all this really comes from a madriga above both. That's why it says Boina Almanas Lister. The Eivishter first created Toyu Almanas Lister in order to destroy it, because the Toyu can't sustain itself. The Shvir Sakeli. And then Seis Almanas Livness. And why did they destroy Toyu Almanas Livness? In order to create an Amatika. So all this is really comes from a madriga above. Almanas Livness. Livness, that's the binyan of Olam HaTikun. So that comes from Shalmayla Mitoy. So in order for Toy to turn into Tikkun, there has to be Amshacha from a Madrega, which is above both the Mayla Mitoyu, above Toyu. The Zevin Shem Mad Tikkun. So that concept is called in Kabbalah Shem Mad Tikkun. Amushash Batz himself the Mayla Misharish HaToy. Kabbalah uses that's the terminology that Kabbalah uses to express the idea how the creation of Elam HaTikun comes from a Madrega which is even higher than Toy, from Shem Ma. Shem Ma that Shalamayla Mitoyu. Amush Kanoida Be'inyan V'u Avar Lifnei. And this is Marumas in the Pasuk. It says in Pashas Vayishlach, V'hu Avar Lifneim, that Yaakov Avar, he passed through Lifneim, before them. That's the Lashon Pasuk. So Chassidus and Kabbalah explain that this Maram is that Lifneim is above Toy and Tikkun. Yaakov came to meet Esau. And Esau is Elam HaToy. Like we said earlier, the whole thing with Esau is Ve'ela Melochim, Zayin Melochim Hashemalchim Be'eretz Eden. That's Esau. Yaakov's name is above. You know, the Tikkun comes from above Toy. That's Marum is in this passage of his name.
And so this is also the same idea. It says Milegav Yushema, no? In the
look, Milgav Yushema, yeah, you're right. Milgav Yushema.
That's a cow.
But I think that's obviously it's definitely connected. but that's, I think that's a later stage. Here we're talking about the tikkun. It's connected. Yeah, it's true. It's connected. Zema shekasav Eitz Chaim. So now he brings in another concept in Kabbalah that brings out this point we just made. And in order for tikkun to be created, we need the hamshacha of Elyon, which is compared to the mind that Hamatzmiach, the Ilan, and to the Eichel Mashima Echeles. What is it bring point Chaim? The Bagimos Mane Hagdola, the Ibo Yinika Moichin. There are three stages in the maturity, so to speak, in the development of the Madriga of Zoh. They run in the three stages called Ibo, Yinika, and Moichin. We learned by Arichas that this concept in I don't know, making it some earlier. I don't know. We had a long Arichas about this concept of that the lowest madrega is Ibo, like a child who is not yet developed. He doesn't like a child. The fetus that's within the mother is not developed. He doesn't have any independence. The next stage is called Yinika. The child is already born, but he still knows it from the mother. And the third madrega is called Moichin, when the child is mature. That's what Kabbalah uses. The stages of Ibo, Yinika, Moichin. That's like Milmata Lamai. What is he saying here? What does it say over there? Each of the three stages in the development of the spheres of Hatzilus, each of them, in order for the development to happen, in order for the growth, the Hagdolah to happen, you need which really proves the point we just made before, that in order for the Olam HaToyu, the Nekudas of Toyu should turn into Tikkun, we need a special Elyon. But what in this particular thing, going back to the concept of Ibo Yinika Moichin, so Nimshoch, there was Agdolah, whenever there's Agdolah, whenever there is growth, which development, there needs to be a special influx of Eretz Elyonim. What does it say there? Number one is Adam in the state of Ibo, the mother's blood, like we just said earlier, the mother's blood, which comes from food, that is the life force of the fetus. The dam, what is dam? Dam is gvura. We all know that dam is considered gvura because usually dam is considered gvura for the two dam in the physical sense. It's gvura because it's red. The color signifies gvura, because red usually signifies gvura. Plus, sometimes it talks about the heat. In order for blood not to melt, not to stay a fluid, it has to be warm. So the heat also sometimes represents gvur. So dam is gvur. But in order for the blood to be alive, that is because within the blood there's a aura of chachma. So the aura of chachma makes this madrega, which he calls the blood, makes it's gvur. In the language of Kabbalah, it's gvur that has a aura of chachma. That's the madrega of Ibo. Now, in the Gas HaKodesh Simon Chok, we just quoted before, it says over there the kasha Zov and Nukva. And the Pchinas Ibo be'ema, that when Zov and Nukva are in a state of Ibo in Ema, in the madrega of Bina, me'irim ba'er shalamayla me'ema, lamayla mayla ad in Sof, me'irim me'tesa zayin yachilais. He quotes the Lashon Kabbalah that is quoted in the Geras HaKodesh, which brings out this point that when in the state of Ibo, there's a special. It's in Eima, it's in Bina, but it has within it ha'oras from a higher madrega, from the Maila Me'ema or the Maila Detzot. V'ayim hashkosu v'sefer Kilas Yaakov Erech Nida. In Kilas Yaakov, it's mentioned a lot of times in my mom with the Shab, Sefer Kilas Yaakov, which is like a sort of encyclopedia of terms in Kabbalah, Chassidus. So in Erech Nida, he says over there, he talks over there with the horror, what happens, what type of horror is made in the Vlad. But so that's Ibo. So in the state of Ibo, what's negated to us is that in the state of Ibo, even in the state of Ibo, in order for the Vlad to be developed, to grow, he needs a special ha'or from what he said, ha'oras ha'chochma, ma'ila and stuff. Then the next step is Bizman ha'yinika. After Ibo comes Yinika. In the state of Yinika, in the way it is physical, the fetus is already independent. But that's like a higher state of development. So dam neka v'nasa cholov. When the Yinika means nursing, what does a child nurse? When a child is within is still in the mother's womb, he gets his sustenance from the mother's blood. What happens after he's born? He gets the sustenance from dam neka v'nasa cholov, the famous Gemara. The Gemara says that usually that the standard is that when a woman is nursing, she doesn't see blood. Why? Says the Gemara, not according to one opinion, dam neka v'nasa cholov. The blood turns into milk, whatever that means. But the negate to us is the Kabbalah comes to shenet nimshach nevel chasodim. Like I said, dam is gvura. Cholov as opposed to dam. Dam is red, which represents gvura. Cholov is white, so cholov is considered chesed. So when dam neka nasa cholov means that this same source of sustenance that the fetus had as blood, now it turned into milk, which means that the gvura turned into chesed. Shenim shel nevel chasodim. Shezeu al yidei meichin da'ab. So that's a higher level. Earlier, he also said meir by Prince Achach. But earlier, the of Prince Achachma is like a lower portion, more diminished of Chachma. But in order for dam to turn to cholov, that's how it's meichin da'ab. So we see here again. We see that in order for the child to grow, he needs a special alien from cholov, which is meichin da'ab.
So you say Mochin Da'abo is higher than Chochmah?
No, I'm not saying higher than Chochmah. It's higher than the Lashon was dam u'pchinas gvura rak zeh she'altei shemeir b'pchinas hachacham. Dam itself is gvura, but there's a little ray of Chachma within it. Meichin da'aba is the Chachma itself. It's two stages in the way the Chachma is made. Because the way the Chachma is made in dam, it still stays dam, it's gvura. But here the dam turns into milk. That's a higher level of Gilur of Chachma. What are Chachma? But it's two stages of Chachma.
Thank you. Okay,
now we go. It says Sfira Sa'imer. What happens to Sfira Sa'imer? We have 49 days of developing all the midas, right? Chesed, Shabbat Chesed, Shabbat Chesed. That's called Zman HaGedolah. That's the time to grow and develop it. So that's the level of Yinika. The level of Yinika, that is the Sfira Sa'imer. With Kol Shekain, How much more so in the third stage of Ibor Inika Moichin? Koshkem is man hamoichin. So all the three stages, so he quoted the shtickle. It's interesting. It's from the words for Zer Mashkotzer Beitz Chaim till here, started earlier. Zer Mashkotzer Beitz Chaim, Bagimel Zman Agdol, the Ibor Inika Moichin. So we see that all three stages of Ibor Inika Moichin, all three stages, we need a special ha'or milamaila from a higher level in order for the development to happen. The Hagdola should happen. In the stage of the lower stage of Ibor, the dam. Then the next stage it's Cholav, and the third stage it doesn't even say Yinika, and the third stage is Moichin. So we always need the Hagdola. Calls there. That's what he summarizes from this entire discussion that he quoted from Eitz Chaim. Calls them, they should say Hagdola, is Gila Eretz El Yenim Yais. In order there should be growth, we need Gila Elyon. Similar to the way we said in the marshal of the Elon, that in order for the garden to grow, it needs water. It needs Eretz El Yenim. That is one part of the marshal development. So the so that also applies to our discussion here. How the Kudus of Tikkun turned into Partzufim of Toyu. In order for that to happen, we need that alien to develop the Kudus of Toyu into the Partzufim of Tikkun. Okay. We continue.
Thank you.
Shkoyach.